All right, we are back to continue our conversation. We talked about Tabitha Brown, and it just took us on a whole tangent of how fucked up this workforce is any damn way. But now we need to talk about how messed up this administration is. God, dog. Um, let's break down what's really going on out here in this week's biggest news. And Tam is going to decode it for us in game film. So, Tam, the Department of Defense is now the Department of War, thanks to the orange guy. And he's sending the National Guard to DC, LA, possibly Baltimore. And Chicago said, hell no. Hell no. You're going to find out why it's called Chirac. And so they have their own defense system. Listen, Tim, what's going on?
All right, let me start by saying this. A lot of this is, in fact, a way to make sure that he's very good at the laser pointer, and those of us that get outraged are very good at being the cat chasing the laser pointer. The Epstein file thing can never get second billing, all right? It's important because it is radioactive as far as he's concerned. And just understand, like, I didn't think much about all the Epstein, because it was a big conspiracy theory before now. And people say, well, why do you care about it now? Well, I'll tell you what cops used to tell us as they were driving by the neighborhood. I didn't care about you standing there, but once you started running, you became very interesting to me. Innocent men don't run. So when they started talking about the Epstein file and he started acting crazy, oh, wait a minute, you just started running and this thing just got real interesting. So before we start talking about, and I'm happy to talk about Department of War and everything else, but let's not ever forget that. Now, to the Department of War. My first thought, my base thought was, this is just stupid, sort of overly masculine. You know, he's compensating for shortcomings elsewhere by just making it hyper masculine. But then I realized actually what's happening, I think, is that there are no mistakes of vernacular when it comes to this administration. Think back to 2018 when during the midterms, they were talking about the caravans and there's an invasion happening. And then they start talking about, they're talking about invasions again. And they're talking about we are at war. Well, there's a reason they're using these terms, because when a president declares war, it opens up all the floodgates on an expansion of their powers. And he gave up the game a few weeks ago when the Ukrainian president Zelensky was in the Oval Office, and they challenged him on, why didn't you hold your elections yet? And as I understand it, in the Ukrainian constitution, it's, elections are stalled, or it's forbidden to hold elections during times of war. And Trump sort of gave up the game when he said, well, maybe I'll just declare war and we won't have elections here. And to my mind, a bunch of his advisors were pissed that he let that out. And that's kind of the way they've been thinking about it all along. So when they start talking about invasions, when they start talking about, when they use those terms where they don't seem to make a lot of sense, it's just laying the groundwork for them to reference it later on and say, but we were at war. But that's how he got, so people won't remember this, that's how he got around congressional restrictions around funding of the wall during his first term. He just declared a state of emergency because there is an invasion taking place. You know what I mean? So he uses these squishy terms or squishy justifications for application of certain terms to then justify his positioning, and never forget that all the way up to the Supreme Court, that system, that field is tilted in his advantage. So you can challenge it all the way you want, but they've stockpiled enough assets across the judicial and political spectrum to ensure that they can get away with pretty much what they want to get away with. There's my long little diatribe on what Department of War really is all about.
It's so heavy.
Yeah, it stinks.
It stinks a lot. And you know what else stinks? The people who...
By the way, it doesn't stink. It's fucking evil, and we're in a lot of fucking trouble, all right? What we're talking about here is, because people need to pound the table a little bit more on these things, what we're talking about here is the justification to suspend American elections. We're talking about potentially, like, I'm not trying to sound like some wild-eyed conspiracy theorist, but you can see it. They kind of give up the game on a regular basis. You can see them justifying right now, do they do it in 26 or do they do it in 28? When do I actually go ahead and deploy this particular weapon? And there is a chance that we do not have an election. That chance actually exists.
I'll be the conspiracy theorist.
There we go.
Give me a piece of tin foil so I can put it on top of my head. I will be the conspiracy theorist. They are running this like play by play. And yes, we should keep our eye on the Epstein situation, but it's like, it's enough so that let's keep the regular public entertained by this. and we're going to make these small adjustments that like Tam said, it is a language difference that somebody, the average eye wouldn't even catch. But I'm like, in order to deploy like certain like the National Guard and the military, you have to be under a state of war, a state of panic. He is slowly but surely doing that by going to Chicago, by going to LA, by getting the Supreme Court to say that yes, it is legal for him to do this. So it's like as that is happening in the background, he is raging a war against spaces that do not think like he does. Even if we go back to the original slogan of making America great again, when was it great? Okay, we have to figure out what time that was and why it was such a great time, because the amount of government control and oversight was a lot higher than what it is today. I said all that to say, is there a possibility of there not being a midterm election next year? I think it's a lot more likely than a lot of people would assume. I know
Right.
next presidential one, like a lot of people count every 4, but it's every single one that you have an opportunity to vote in that is important. The midterms, like especially with them gerrymandering a lot of the different places, I believe within Texas and like California is talking about it. Like this is a very strategic plan, and there are certain people that aren't out that are in positions of power that aren't as outraged as they should be and aren't moving as swiftly enough when someone is verbally telling you, hey, I'm going to hit you in the face. And then you're like, oh, no, they would never do that to me. And then they hit you in the face and then you cry. We can't be so reactionary. We have to like put our listening ears on. And like sometimes when someone says they're going to do something, just believe them for face value.
You just brought up some such important things. First of all, there's a 101 or a breakdown of what gerrymandering means. Is that in order at some point? Nia, I'll let you
Right now.
decide that. The other thing I'll say is like what the Supreme Court has done as it pertains to enabling the ICE raids so Brett Kavanaugh, a sitting Supreme Court justice, just wrote in his majority opinion that allows for ICE agents just to pick up anybody they think might be illegal. So in other words, the racial profiling is now endorsed by the Supreme Court. His opinion was literally, while appearance alone isn't enough, where that person is and how they speak adds context and then will justify it. He literally, the United States Supreme Court, a sitting U.S. Supreme Court justice, just wrote and put in writing, memorialized in history, the approval of racial profiling. Being Hispanic looking and speaking Spanish in a Home Depot parking lot serves as justification for you to be arrested, detained, and deported to a third country that you've never visited, never seen, know nothing about, never to be heard from or seen with no due process. That has been codified by the Supreme Court. These are realities. We went on vacation, my family and I, overseas this summer, and a buddy of mine said, you better not go. You and the kids are light skinned. Y'all, they may not let you back. It
No,
was
that's
funny,
what
but it
people
was
say.
like
It's real.
Yeah, it's
funny.
real, man.
Right.
Do you have your documents in order?
Yeah. So are we walking around with our passports now?
But like, if we walk around with our passport, they can easily say, "Oh, that's not real." Like, so, like, where's the?
There
How
it
far
is.
are we going back to like
There
carrying
it is.
freedom papers? Like, how far? Like, how
That's
far are we
exactly
Taking
where
it
we
as
are.
far as they can.
That's exactly where we
And-
are.
And my thing is like they were able to kind of codify that argument, and then a few years ago had the argument that affirmative action within higher education systems is something that should no longer be valid. So it's like you can racially profile somebody for breathing outside, but for someone trying to get an education, we're in the complete reverse. We're in the upside down. And again, putting my tinfoil hat on.
Aaron, yeah, it's worse than what you even said, because they literally, I think they were suing the University of Virginia, or maybe it was Duke. They were suing Duke University under the premise of the Civil Rights Act, because there weren't enough white professors in a certain spot. They're actually using the Civil Rights Act to say that you don't have enough white people here. Yeah, that's where we are.
It's really forget Amendment 4. They don't give a damn about that. It's bad, and what hurts me the most is that the people who it affect, they don't even realize how bad it is for them. So it was this interview with Don Lemon on the street, and he stopped this woman, and she was from the Dominican Republic, and she was like, yeah, I think we need the National Guard, to keep us safe, And someone said, we're trading freedom for safety. And this is how it all happens. Most people don't see what's happening, you know?
Yeah, but
In
that's
her
even
broken
that's a false
English.
choice and a false premise. That's actually, yeah. I mean, that's the premise upon which they're bringing this forward, but that's not what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Every
That's
Mm-hmm.
not
time I
what
have a
happened. It's a total
conspiracy
flex.
theory,
It's a total flex. It's all look at how strong I am. Look at how that's all it is. It's not has nothing to do with it. Because in the top 10 of most violent cities in the country, something like 8 of them are in Republican-run states and cities, and they're not sending the National Guard to any of them. They're focusing on D.C. and Chicago.
Baltimore.
So what do you see in all those places?
The blacks.
Mucho negros, exactly.
I have
Let's
another
not kid
conspiracy
ourselves.
theory.
Yeah, let's
I have
not kid
one.
ourselves here.
We
It's not
have
even
to
a
name this
conspiracy theory
episode.
here.
No, we have
Yeah,
to name this episode.
that's not a conspiracy theory.
That one isn't. I do have a conspiracy theory around how they've been able to kind of do this and how it hasn't affected their pockets in an overall arching scheme. I do believe that if as a country we decided to take a stance and say that life began at contraception, if that is the case, allow women to take life insurance policy out on the baby. And
Interesting.
if anything were to happen, you fall back on a life insurance policy. If we look at the rates in which people have life insurance policies across where a lot of these places are, you're not going to get that many. Now, if everyone automatically at birth got a life insurance policy, I'm sure that we would have more gun reform. After Sandy Hook, we wouldn't have saw a lot of that happening. We're just
You're saying because they'd have to pay out on all those lives lost, that it would
100%.
this would be the fight. This would be the trench warfare between the lobbies at this point, the insurance lobby versus the gun lobby.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And those two carry a big part of DC and
massive.
Washington.
Massive,
So it's like
massive.
if one of them is hitting them in their pockets, the other one is going to have a massive issue with it. So it's like people are asking, oh, we need the National Guard for protection. Okay, my immediate reaction is like, okay, if I feel like I need protecting, I will go protect myself with what you are shoving down my throat, which is my Second Amendment. Then we have a
interesting.
larger issue. So it's I think we got to start reading from their playbook. We can't keep playing defense. Sometimes you got to play offense.
Speaking of hitting their pockets, I think it's Hyundai. Have y'all heard about the
Oh, yeah.
plant and what happened?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody give us the rundown.
Anybody? I'm happy to.
I don't know what
Tim.
happened.
ICE went in there, raided the Hyundai plant, and took, I think, 375 workers right off the line and detained them all. That shuts down a plant, by the way. This is a Hyundai plant that the administration had boasted about bringing all this manufacturing back to America. And this is in Georgia. So they shut down a Hyundai plant. Turns out all these folks are Korean, apparently, because the government in Seoul has come back and said, we are going to take care of our people. The conspiracy theory is like somebody didn't pay somebody. The shakedown happened and somebody didn't stick the envelope full of cash into the other person's pillow. You know what I mean? But yeah, they're going in there and taking down 375 workers off an assembly line in Georgia. Something's weird about that thing.
And so now they're threatening to take the plant away. Like, y'all
Yeah, and they
harassing our
should.
people.
Are you kidding me?
So a Karen has shut down a whole car plant because she couldn't mind her damn business. A white woman called in to ICE and was like, come check this out.
I hadn't heard that part. Is that true?
I mean, that's what I heard. I'm going to say allegedly. Okay, this week's Locker Room Talk is about NBC's news poll. They surveyed Gen Z to find out their ideas of success in politics. So, guys, can you guess the number one most important thing for Gen Z men who voted for Trump? How did they personally define success? Just give me a quick off the rip what you think they thought.
I'll let other people go first, please.
We'll say money, something related
Money.
to finances.
Finances, okay, Kev. What you got, Aaron?
I know the answer to this one, so it's
shit, because Aaron sent it to me.
I know the answer to this one, so I want to see what Tim's answer is.
Yeah, let's ask the men who voted for somebody else.
So you're asking me what did male Trump voters say was the number one indicator of success?
How did they define success? Yeah.
Gen Z. specifically.
Gen Z.
Find success.
Mm-hmm. It's just think of us doing our survey questions. What's one of the answer choices? I can't wait to tell you. You know, I'm getting kind of antsy.
I would just
like
say
it's
being able
Christmas.
to be a real man again or something.
How do you become a real man, Tim?
Dominance over a woman. I don't know.
All right.
I'm trying to think from that perspective.
You are so close. That's what's killing me. You're so close. Okay. You ready for the answer?
Go ahead.
Children. Having children is their number one definition of success.
Look, that can be interpreted as a lot less toxic than what I was thinking.
Right.
Like shit, I'm about to give
if you want to give
toxic.
somebody ultimate benefit of the doubt, you can say, you know what, there's something very wholesome about that.
No. Well, and let me tell you why. Because they had 13 things to choose from. Number 4, they chose marriage. Number 12, having emotional stability. Out of the 13 things you could choose from, number 12 was emotional stability, but number 1 is having kids. Come on now.
That doesn't surprise me. The emotional stability being low on the list doesn't surprise me much when you think about just young men.
I mean, sure, but you want to have kids, but you don't want to provide them with no emotional stability.
That's
ass.
What does one have to do with the other? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you know, who cares? As long as she have my babies and, take my name. Of course, the Harris supporters, they did say money. Not money, but just like having a job, being able to take care of themselves. Pretty much the same consensus that our surveys say. Very interesting. Any thoughts?
It didn't sound like a negative thing, having children. I guess having children is different from like having a family, and maybe it could have been open to interpretation, but from my purview, I think, having children, raising a family is a very noble thing that most men aspire to do.
Can I just say this though? I will say, and I wonder if there's a racial component to this. No man that I knew, hung out with, played sports with, did anything, coming out of college at the age of 22, 23 wanted a child as their first thing that they were trying to accomplish. You know what I mean? We were all happy to wait as long as we could. So that is interesting. When you think about, did you know any black man at 22 whose entire aspiration was to have children, or top priority was to have children? I didn't.
I don't.
So
think
that's an interesting. You have to wonder why, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah.
I went to school with more black men that wanted a family and wanted marriage with the right person versus having a child.
Same.
I think having children be number one and marriage underneath that for the people that are very centered around the family nucleus is very telling of like, you want your legacy to continue and like in a more self-centered kind of way versus like, I want to grow a bubble or a nucleus that will define my success. Like this is almost past like having a trophy wife at one point in time, I'm sure was higher on that list. Now it's like, I want a son that's going to be an alpha, whatever.
Yeah.
To do whatever.
Men have a thing about putting their names on buildings and shit like that. Like legacy. Can I just tell you, I'm going to say this part, which I probably shouldn't say, but this is going to be true and real. I knew 1,000,000% more men at that age that had children that didn't want to have children.
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
You know what I mean? Like
I know a lot of.
Yeah, I can't count how many of people that I grew up with or whatever that had kids at that age, not by choice. None. I didn't know a single one that aspired to have children at that age by choice. That was our reality.
Exactly. It's definitely a whistleblow. It's all about continuing the legacy, and they worry about them being the minority soon. In my mind. That's what I'm reading in between the lines. Yep.
I wonder if you were to give them truth serum, would a descriptor come in there having white children? Would that be part of?
Let me go get my lasso and take
that's
care
the
of
point
this, we need to
I
know.
miss. These are voters for Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Kev, before we dip, can you tell us about what AAV has up our sleeves and why they should be following This Is AAV on Instagram?
Absolutely. We're back with sweepstakes. We have a phenomenal sweepstakes for you to enter and win access to Brandy and Monica, Kate Trinata, Leon Thomas, and One Music Fest, which has the craziest lineup in the festival world this year. So tune in, lock in, and be sure to enter.
Yeah. Aaron, the people said you're not slick. They noticed Monica's white sandals on our promotions. They said you not slick. They peeped it.
Before you walk out of my life, it's important that we talk about this.
It's cute. Well done. Well done.
You see what I did there? Look, you lucky I didn't put her in that Fendi outfit from the Verses, because that's also up there with Monica's most memorable looks. You know, I had to have Brandy up there with her braids. I had to have The Boy Is Mine in the background as well. This is giving nostalgia. Also, I know there are other people on that tour, like Kelly Rowland is going to be there. So you have Brandy and Monica headlining, but Kelly Rowland as an opener is absolutely insane. I think Money Long is going to be at a few dates. I think Coco Jones might be at a few dates. So like, this is a packed tour, you know, and you guys are already kind of filling up our bank with entries right now. So, you know, we'll see if there's anything extra up our sleeves for Brandy and Monica if you stay tuned. But yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a tease. I love that.
We'll see.
People
We'll
are
see.
loving Brandy
Can I
and
put in a
Monica.
vote for the song Blue Moon as the sleeper hit from Brandy's catalog?
That's what I'm talking about.
That was
The town.
kind of a jam.
Come on, that's what I'm talking about. I need Brandy to sing all her sleepers. Man, Brandy has like a cajillion hits on the cool.
She has to
It
do
got
the
quiet for Brandy, but the list is long.
And
She has to
maybe
do the
Ray J
entire
will make an
full moon.
appearance with his sunglasses.
Woo, shit. I wish I had some sunglasses to.
He said they're unbreakable. We have to get that on social, Nia. They're unbreakable. They're unbreakable. Brandy's brother is an icon in
Icon,
the
man.
game.
What? You hear me?
He launched an entire family. He launched an entire family into infamy. With the
He
Kardashians.
dated Whitney Houston.
He
Come
did.
on, man.
Weren't they
We talking
together?
about iconic.
They were together before she passed, right?
Yeah, man. You know, that Whitney loves her some crazy ones. All right, Tim, close us out.
Pause. What the hell am I doing to close us out? I'm not sure.
That's it for this week's Coach's Corner. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. That's you, Tim.
What she said. Thank y'all for tapping into Coach's Corner, I guess. We'll see you
Keep
next
the conversations
week.
going. Send us your hot takes. Argue in the comments. We see it all. And make sure to follow us at This Is AAV on Instagram. Tim, you really don't remember your lines?
I have
okay.
lines.
And remember,
Yeah, follow us
knowing
on the
game,
Instagram thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
and
that.
remember, knowing the game ain't enough. You gotta,
You gotta know how to
win
win
it.
it. There you go.
We'll see you next week.
All
Thank you, Kevin, Aaron. Peace out.
Peace.